This is the Ricoh GR IV. I've had it for a while now, and here are some of the things I like about it, some dislikes, and some wishes. All right, with the likes. Number one, it's fast. It turns on in an instant. It's ready to go. It focuses really nice and fast, and it shoots really fast. So overall, it's ready in an instant, a moment's notice, and you don't miss the moment. That's one of the things I like about it. Besides the fast operation of the lens, the camera turning on and off, and the focus speed, you have a couple other things going for you that help speed up the entire operation. Number one is snap focus. If you just press all the way through with the shutter button, you can preset a snap focus and it will shoot at that snap focus. That way, you don't even focus. You're not going like, maybe I should focus here or maybe I should focus there. Nope, you're not worried about any of that. You just press the shutter button all the way, and because you've told the camera beforehand which focus distance to focus on should you do so, it will go ahead and do that. Some of the classics are 2.5 meters for like general, photography. 2.5 meters is where classic GR cameras were set to, the film cameras, and the really early digital GR. The next thing about it that it kind of has going for it that helps speed things up is the shortcuts that you can set up. So, for example, I have crop set here to the button on the left of the dial, and just like that, 35 millimeter and 50 millimeter lens crop options are available to me. Again, fast, right? Back to 28. I've set the white balance button, the arrow down button. I've covered everything up in black. It's just kind of a vibe I'm going for right now. But that's the white balance button. I've preset that to take me through my different aspect ratios. If you've enjoyed Fuji cameras or Lumix cameras that have a separate dial for aspect ratios, this is your chance to have it on a GR. You can kind of go through all your different classics and have that ready right at your fingertips to be able to create the image you want to create right there in the moment in the camera. As far as the other shortcuts, I have the function button set to manual focus, which for me is also fixed focus. For example, let's say we are focused on that card over there, and I press the function button to activate manual focus. What it does is it will lock the focus to wherever I was before I press that button. So if I go and hold my display button here, we'll see that the card is still in focus. Focus on your gifts and keep producing is the message I have every day. So that is the shortcuts. In sort of the tradition of the GR, the older GRs, I've set the side button to bring up my different film simulations or photo image control modes. By the way, the Cinema Yellow, if you haven't tried it on the GR4, it is incredible. It's my new favorite. Colors are somewhat natural, a little bit warm. It just looks right. It just looks right. And I actually turn off the grain feature to show you guys how sharp and detailed the images are. And the Cinema Yellow, by the way, reduces sharpness a little bit because of how sharp this lens actually is on its own. It looks a little too sharp if you want to capture a cinematic vibe, so you reduce the sharpness just a little bit. All right, so that's a whole lot on speed. The next one is the fastest one, is how compact it is. So number 2 is size. This thing fits in every kind of pocket that I have. Front, back, side pocket, doesn't matter where. This thing can come with me everywhere, and the camera that's with you all the time is the best camera. You've heard that before. So that's why this is the best camera. The third point is in-camera processing. I referred to the film simulation earlier. That's basically what I'm talking about here, but a much more vast variety of options are available to you beyond just choosing your different film stocks. So cinema yellow, cinema green, positive film, negative film, and all the black and whites are one thing, but beyond that, you have options including ISO, for example, that really do quite a lot. And I'll just demonstrate here real quickly. So we're doing this at pretty good light at ISO 200, near base ISO. And I want you to pay attention to the shadows. Shadows are really nicely lifted, actually, plenty of detail in there. But if I go and even capture more shadows and go manually set my ISO to be like, let's say, 20,000, something like that, you'll see that the shadow detail drops significantly when you go to an ISO, I want to say above like 4,000, 6,400. So that's another form of image control you have, especially because even at such high ISOs, we still have a ton of detail, as you can see. So if you're thinking of this like I do as a film scanning and producing machine in your pocket, then all of this are options you can take into consideration. Of course, beyond the natural texture you get from higher ISO images, you can also turn on the grain feature now in a lot of the film simulations, and that gives you natural looking film grain that you can also utilize. So all of these controls, let me quickly show you white balance also, especially because there's a new white balance setting. And I have white balance now under my quick menu, since my white balance button is customized for the aspect ratio. But you'll see I'm on white balance white. This helps quite a lot in lower light situations where your camera will tend to, it's daytime right now, so it's not the best moment to show it to you, but if you're in low light indoor situations, your camera will tend to warm things up a little too much. Once you see that, just go ahead and switch to auto white balance white. And as you saw, it's slight here, but you get what I'm talking about. It will give you a much whiter white. It might kind of overdo it a little bit. You'll notice what I mean when you're indoors and you actually start taking some pictures with these two different white balance modes. It just whitens the whites a little bit more, and I think that's a cool feature to have. So the processing inside of the camera is my third point. The one I want to talk about right after that is the convenience of having this app connection. You see that over there? It's recognizing, just as I have the camera on and I've been talking to you guys, it's recognizing the camera and the number of shots and everything. So I don't really have to worry on a day-to-day basis, where are my photos? Because every, few hours or so, all I have to do is go to my phone or my tablet and press that button, and you hit join, and the thing connects wirelessly and starts transferring my photos into my phone, or my iPad in this case. As you can see, it's doing it right now. So I'm no longer, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not worried about, did I transfer my photos? Did I not? It's just getting done as part of a routine. And as you can see, it's like really, really painless and fast. So rather than having to dump everything into Lightroom, use one of these USB USB-C card readers and move everything to Lightroom, then go through them and maybe edit some, maybe don't. Everything just goes to my Apple Photos, or if you're an Android user, to your Google Photos. And from there, I can review everything. And once and if I want to edit some of them, then I'll pull them into Lightroom separately and just, live a good life. So that's the next point. The other thing I want to talk about now is the pro level controls. So let's go ahead and switch over to manual mode. This thing, as tiny as it is as customizable and manualable, rather. Neither of those terms are correct, but is just as pro-friendly, I guess, as a Leica M would be. You have your shutter speed control and your aperture control and your ISO setting right at your fingertips in manual mode. Plus, it gives you this cool traditional looking meter that helps find your perfect lighting as you go through. And so a good manual mode is really, really handy. But beyond that, and here's the cool part, if you want to shoot in auto ISO in manual, you kind of get a little bit of help. If you go to your menu after that and turn on this one feature, it's called auto EV compensation. You see, I've turned that on. What happens then is, if you, let's say, have, very bright situation like we have here, and you really want to force the camera to shoot at a really low shutter speed, you see the ISO starts blinking, kind of like those older film cameras would. What's going to happen now is, if I had the auto EV compensation off, let's go ahead and turn it off right now, it will take a severely overexposed image, right? As you can see here. However, and at that same exact shutter speed that I told it to, 1.3 seconds. However, if I go to my settings and turn on auto EV compensation, what it does is, when I'm in a situation like that, let's go even more. Let's go 2 seconds, right? This is going to be severely overexposed. But what it does is, now, the moment you press the focus and you have confirmed focus, it pulls everything to EV0 because you have it set to EV0. So even if I have this set to 2 seconds, the shot will be taken at 0.3 seconds to give you normal exposure, as opposed to very, bright. If I turn it off, do the same thing, you'll see that it will take the shot for the entire 2 seconds. And now we're overexposed. Why is this handy? Because you can actually kind of work in a minimum shutter speed of your own kind of setup, even if it's super, super low light and the camera is having a hard time getting that fast a shutter speed and getting proper exposure. It will adjust it back down for you to still be the fastest it can possibly get, and you will still get the shot. But it will be aiming for that 500 first. So in this sense, you've created your own minimum shutter speed while you're in manual mode. So I hope that makes sense, but it is really, really cool. All right, so next thing is, we're going into accessories now. I love the wide angle adapter for this thing. It is a 21 millimeter adapter. It is like this and attaches to the front like so. The camera immediately recognizes it as wide, as you saw. It wrote it over there for a second. I'll show it to you on the side. Wide. And it is just such a cool little option to have, because of how much more room you get to shoot. And you would be surprised how useful this is for, like, parties, you go into like a Thanksgiving gathering or something like with family, it's usually closer in settings. A 21 millimeter can really come in handy, capturing a lot in your shot. And you have this kind of separate in your bag, and it's a really cool add-on to have. Let me go ahead and put this front ring back on. Speaking of add-ons, the next thing I want to talk about is the flash. This is the Ricoh GF2 flash. It is made specifically for the GR4 camera, and I like it quite a lot because it uses the focus distance that the camera sets in order to set the flash intensity. And that's really helpful because, especially coming from using manual flashes with my GR3, one of the frustrating things was when you're focused on a really close object, the flash would be almost instantly overpowering because of how close you are, and the flash just has, a manual flash like this tiny, really useful, really cool F1S flash from Metalite. It's a really good, useful flash, but when I'm close to objects, it doesn't know, except in the case of the Ricoh, it does. So it does a reduced version of the power of the flash to give you a nice balanced look of the image. And speaking of going to parties and gatherings with friends and stuff, that's when this comes in handy quite a lot. Because if I'm far away, then it's shooting the flash at, there you go, nice and bright flash. But if the person or, the people, the persons are right in front of me, the flash is not going to blow them out. It's a nice reduced flash. It is not TTL metering, I should say, which means it doesn't know what f-stop I'm at. So it's different, but for the most part, it does a really good job. And another thing I like to do about it, if you're, say, in an indoor environment and just kind of snap shooting with people at a party, I set my full press snap to like 1 meter or 1.5, and I can just always get that reduced flash power. Even if I'm pointed at things that are further away, it will shoot with that reduced power flash every time. And, I don't risk, accidentally focusing on something further away and have the flash think it needs to fire at infinity and blow everything out. Well, in this case, we're far away enough, regardless. But that can happen too, because the flash will shoot at its highest power that it thinks is appropriate for the scene if your focus is at infinity. At least that's been my experience with it so far. So it's really great. It turns off as you turn the camera off as well. By the way, you might have noticed in the background as I've been doing this thing has just been transferring the images over to my iPad. So case to point for the convenience of having modern features in a camera like this. Speaking of modern features, the next thing I want to talk about is how much I like the IBIS on this thing. So we're in program mode right now, ISO 100. It's basically shooting, let's see, it's choosing 1/10 of a second or 1/13 of a second, 1/15, as it sees appropriate, which is already a pretty slow shutter speed if you don't have image stabilization. Obviously, everything is nice and sharp and in focus. But what I like about it is I can go, let's switch to auto ISO real quick so it also does that. I can go really, really, really low. So, and that helps me keep my ISO low. So let's say if we were in a darker environment, the ISO would be pushing itself higher up, right? 1600, which is really not an issue, but regardless, let's say I want a really, really crisp photo. Well, I'm just going to reduce my shutter speed to like 1/4 of a second or 0.3 seconds, and I can still without trying too hard, I can get a nice sharp shot because the IBIS is so effective. So IBIS and ISO kind of go hand in hand in this case, because if you have your auto ISO on, you can save yourself the issues of high ISO texture if you want clearer images by switching out your shutter speed to such a low speed. The image stabilization is doing so much of the work for you, which brings me to my complaints. I have one complaint about this camera, and that is blurry shots. Occasionally, the IBIS finds a mistake, and not at slow speeds. It actually tends to work pretty well. Let me get a nicer, deserving, stable shot at 0.3 seconds. You'll see it actually does a brilliant job of capturing, undoing the shaking of my hand. But sometimes when you're in really fast shutter speeds and I'm like slingshotting, kind of like street photography, you just pull the camera up and you shoot. In those situations, I find that it's sometimes either the IBIS isn't working or it's overworking. It's either one of those two things that is happening in those cases that I've seen that causes blurry images for me. The other thing that sometimes happens to me is just the autofocus by itself. It pulls to things that are closer, like it happened just now, or sometimes it just pulls to air. And I'm like, okay, well, we're not focused on anything. This is a rare occurrence. As you can see so far, I've spent, a lot of time describing all these things that are positive about this camera, and it's taken this long to come to a negative. So yeah, there's a reason this is my only camera. It really does a lot of things really, really well. But yeah, so occasionally I get that weird focus situation where, the camera doesn't quite get the focus right. And between that and the IBIS issue in sort of slingshot street photography, those are two situations where I've noticed blurry shots. I have probably one wish for this camera, and it is an old feature that you found in the GR Digital 4. It has to do with the display of information on your screen. Right now, when you toggle through with the display button, you don't have any options where the information is not overlaid on your image. Every time, every option, the information is overlaid on the image. In GR Digital 4, there was a feature in the menu called Shooting Info Display Frame. And it looks a bit like this in the menu of the GRD4, Shooting Info Display Frame. And when you turn that on in the GRD4, what it does is it puts a dark frame around your image and basically zooms out your image, puts it in the middle of the screen, and puts all of this info in a dark black frame around the image. That is so helpful because then you can see all the elements of your image and still be aware of all your settings and not have all of this top and bottom section covered with all of this stuff. It would be really nice to bring that back in the new GR4, this old feature from GR Digital 4. That is my only request. I've blacked it out, as you can see, just kind of for fun and for just kind of a stealth look. I also noticed none of the buttons indicated the thing that it does anymore. So ISO button for me is crop. So why does it say ISO? I'm just putting black tape on it. And once I started that, then I just kind of made it a theme and went through. You can set custom modes as well. So I have monochrome mode that I go to, and like an extra small mode that I go to with 4:3 aspect ratio for like old school GR digital vibe photos. That's pretty much all I have to say about this camera. This is the GR4. It's a great camera. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, please hit like and the subscribe button, and I will be posting more of this stuff. I will also post links, affiliate links to Amazon, where you can purchase this camera or the accessories that I might have mentioned for it or not have mentioned for it throughout this video. I will see you guys next time.